Tom Roberts stands as one of the foundational figures in Australian art history, a painter whose career helped define a national visual language at a moment when Australia was seeking cultural self-understanding. Born in Dorchester, England, Roberts migrated with his family to Australia as a teenager, a move that would decisively shape both his personal identity and his artistic mission. His life and work unfolded alongside the transformation of Australia from a collection of colonies into a federated nation, and his art became closely intertwined with emerging ideas about landscape, labour, civic life, and national character. Roberts arrived in Melbourne in 1869 following the death of his father. Like many immigrant families of the era, the Roberts household faced financial hardship, and Tom began working at a young age to support his mother and siblings. These early years instilled in him a strong sense of discipline and practicality, qualities that would later coexist with his artistic idealism. He initially trained as a photographer's assistant, a formative experience that sharpened his observational skills and deepened his understanding of composition, light, and the mechanics of visual representation. Photography also exposed him to the everyday lives of working people, an exposure that left a lasting imprint on his artistic sensibility. Roberts's commitment to painting crystallized in the late 1870s when he enrolled at the National Gallery of Victoria Art School. There, he studied under Eugène von Gerard and George Folingsby, absorbing a rigorous academic foundation rooted in European traditions. Yet even as he mastered conventional techniques, Roberts grew restless with the conservatism of colonial art institutions. He sensed that academic formulas alone were insufficient for capturing the distinctive qualities of Australian life and environment. This tension between inherited European methods and the realities of a new continent would become a central theme of his career. In 1881, Roberts travelled to Europe to further his education, a journey that proved transformative. He spent several years in London and Paris, immersing himself in contemporary artistic developments. In Paris, he encountered the plein-air practices associated with Impressionism, which emphasized direct observation, natural light, and the immediacy of lived experience. Although Roberts never adopted Impressionism wholesale, he absorbed its emphasis on working outdoors and its rejection of overly polished studio effects. Equally important was his exposure to artists, communities, and debates about the social role of art. These experiences broadened his perspective and sharpened his conviction that Australia needed its own artistic voice rather than a derivative imitation of European models. Roberts returned to Australia in 1885 with renewed purpose. Settling again in Melbourne, he became a central figure in a circle of like-minded artists that included Frederick McCubbin, Arthur Streeton, and Charles Conder. This informal group, later known as the Heidelberg School, shared a commitment to painting directly from nature and engaging with contemporary Australian subjects. While the label school suggests a unified doctrine, the reality was looser and more dynamic. Roberts played a leadership role within this circle, both through his artistic example and his advocacy for modern approaches to painting. He encouraged younger artists, organized exhibitions, and helped articulate the philosophical underpinnings of their shared enterprise. Roberts's artistic vision was deeply shaped by his belief that art should reflect the lived realities of the society from which it emerged. He was particularly interested in the rhythms of everyday life, whether rural or urban, and in the ways people interacted with their environment. This focus aligned with broader cultural movements in late 19th century Australia that sought to define national identity through landscape, labour, and democratic ideals. Roberts's work resonated with audiences who recognized themselves and their surroundings in his imagery, even when critics were initially skeptical of his departure from academic conventions. Beyond his role as a painter, Roberts was an energetic participant in the cultural life of Melbourne. He was involved in artists' societies, exhibition committees, and public debates about art education and patronage. He believed strongly in the need for institutional support for artists and for the cultivation of public appreciation for art. At times, this advocacy placed him at odds with conservative elements within the art establishment, but it also cemented his reputation as a leading voice for artistic reform. The 1890s were a period of both creative achievement and personal challenge for Roberts. Economic depression in Australia reduced opportunities for artists, and Roberts struggled financially despite his growing reputation. He supplemented his income through teaching, commercial illustration, and portrait commissions. These practical pressures did not diminish his ambition. Rather, they reinforced his determination to demonstrate that serious art could address contemporary Australian themes with dignity and depth. During this decade, he also developed a reputation as a gifted portraitist, capable of capturing not just physical likeness, but psychological presence. In 1901, Roberts returned to England, initially intending to expand his career and gain broader recognition. He settled in London, where he continued to paint and exhibit, though he faced stiff competition in a crowded art scene. His Australian identity, once a source of inspiration, became a complicating factor in Britain, where colonial artists often struggled for equal footing. Nevertheless, Roberts remained committed to his work and maintained connections with Australia through correspondence and periodic exhibitions. His years in England were marked by persistence rather than triumph, reflecting both his resilience and the challenges faced by artists operating between cultural worlds. The outbreak of the First World War brought a dramatic shift in Roberts's circumstances. Despite being in his late 50s, he enlisted with the Australian Imperial Force and served as an official war artist. This role aligned with his long-standing interest in recording contemporary life and national experience. His wartime service took him to Egypt, France, and England, exposing him to the vast machinery of modern warfare and its human consequences. Although the war left him physically and emotionally strained, it reinforced his sense of art as a form of historical witness. After the war, Roberts returned to Australia permanently in 1919. He settled in Melbourne and later in regional Victoria, living a quieter life than in his earlier decades. The art world had changed significantly during his absence, with new movements and younger artists challenging the values of his generation. Roberts did not embrace these developments wholeheartedly, remaining committed to the principles that had guided his career. This conservatism sometimes led to critical reassessment of his work, yet it also underscored the coherence and integrity of his artistic vision. In his later years, Roberts received increasing recognition for his contributions to Australian art. Retrospective exhibitions and critical writings began to position him as a pioneer whose efforts had laid the groundwork for subsequent generations. His role in shaping a distinctly Australian approach to painting, grounded in direct observation and national subject matter, became a central theme in assessments of his legacy. Although he never achieved substantial financial security, he earned the respect of peers and the admiration of students and younger artists. Roberts died in 1931, leaving behind a body of work and a cultural legacy that continues to influence Australian art history. His life encapsulates many of the tensions and aspirations of his era, the pull between Europe and Australia, tradition and innovation, individual ambition, and collective identity. As both artist and advocate, he helped establish the conditions under which Australian art could emerge as a confident, self-aware tradition. Today, Tom Roberts is remembered not merely for his technical skill or stylistic achievements, but for his role in articulating a vision of art deeply rooted in place and experience. He believed that painting could serve as a mirror to society and a means of cultural affirmation. In this sense, his significance extends beyond aesthetics to encompass broader questions about how nations imagine themselves and how artists contribute to that process. Roberts's career stands as a testament to the power of artistic commitment in shaping cultural identity, and his influence remains woven into the fabric of Australian visual culture.